Hello. Well, normally I'd probably like spend an hour um, reviewing your stuff and making it a post. I'm really just feeling too lazy right now, so I'm just gonna record myself speaking and unfiltered thoughts. I did a review. I reviewed your Instagram videos as well, but we're just gonna go over the two videos you sent because that's all you sent. I looked at your other videos to get a better sense of who you are, I guess. First things first is we'll play the video first, and then I'll go over everything.
Shit, you get sound like a bee. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French plug and you keep saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop making that shit up.
Sound like a bee. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French plug and you keep saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop making that shit up.
Alright, first things first is you're going to need to. Oh, it's just F11 it.
Shit,
You got these little edges like this, right? They're not probably your fault, but what you should do is while you're doing CC, at the very end of everything, all your effects, put a scale in, like maybe 101.2, something like really tiny that just gets rid of the borders, because the borders are not a huge deal, but they're just a little imperfection that you could easily get rid of. So yeah.
you get sound like a bee.
Next thing is this is 24 FPS, I think. I should double check. Because none of the 15 was the other one. Yeah, this is 24 at 720p. I would definitely do at least 1080p for future reference. 720 is pretty low. Yeah, 24 FPS. Right, that's
Shit, you get sound like a
the problem is that you have a ton of frame interpolation, especially on these clips. I think they probably you played this game and then decided to edit it, which is fine. But especially towards the end here, the second go through,
making that shit up.
Sound like a bee. We kicking down
can see.
doors like a
like especially like right there, like
kicking down doors.
even if you're doing like posterized time, like look at this, 1, 2, 3, or actually wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's still 3 frames, just of the same exact thing in a row. Even if you're doing like echo or posterized time, there's nothing that really says that to your, like you have to add some sort of like tint or echo to it to hide this like really terrible both frame warping and your lack of frames.
We a French plug and you keep saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop making that shit up.
Shit, you get sound.
And you keep saying
Okay, but that's probably just a lazy second playthrough because this is only like a 6-second edit, so probably just want to extend the time, I guess. That's why I'm going to theory graph and just say that you could have done a lot better and like adding some random effects that made it look a little more interesting, right? But
Shit, you get sound like a bee. We kicking down doors like a fucking key.
if that is all it is, I mean, if this is all it is, or just like a game edit, that's fine, I guess. But you said you were looking for something in depth, so what I'm going to say is that criticism heavily wanted and things I can improve on. The first thing you can improve on that you kind of don't really have at all here is that there's no real like story. There definitely is a story because obviously it's a video game and you're playing it, right? But we don't get to know that story. You don't tell us any of that story. We get the story in maybe like
You get sound like a bee.
this, right?
We
Or
kicking
we get
down
it
doors
in
like a
like
fucking key. A French plug and you keep saying
this or this. But like these are just like the main character being like arrogant. It's not like saying anything like that really. I don't know what this means either. It's just like random points in the game. I think if you added or if you like try to like, I don't know how you do it honestly with just video games cutscenes, but adding some sort of story would be nice. And some themes. I've seen your previous edits as well. You don't really have much of a theme. I guess in your next edit you do a little more with theming and stuff like that. In the way that you have like this like whole tint situation going on. But even past that, like you've had these are like the only ones that have like any sort of difference, but this is pretty neutral. This one has a little bit of vignette, like a little more darker tone, but I think it's more because of the footage. This is pretty neutral. That's a little more of a darker, but again, because of the footage, you don't really seem to add your own like twist on the footage you're being presented with, which is unfortunate because okay, it feels like you're kind of almost editing for commission or like you're editing a highlight reel. there's nothing serious about it. Or yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Like I used to edit comms for highlight videos, and it comes off like very, very similar. It's like actually here, wait, I'll just show you one like, straight off the bat, right? So I'll just show you a frame of it. So this, right? This frame, right? This frame, right? So we got let's compare that to, right? We have a blur vignette. We have a blur vignette here, which is, of course, that's something that comes across as most edits, not just my client work. Then we have boosted contrast. Like the CC looks pretty damn similar. Of course, you seem to have boosted your colors more, but like honestly, like it's very close in the fact that like it's very minimal. Also, you've added I don't know if this is just a game and your footage, but the whites in your scenes feel a little overexposed. I feel like this is probably not just one shade in the original game, but her face is probably more than one shade. Same with her hair. Her hair it feels like it loses a little quality, and it's definitely a byproduct of 720p. 1440p is honestly what I recommend. 1080p at minimum. There are also some warps that don't really look like they're part of like the scene or anything, like you purposely added them. Like this right here, I don't think you're using part of Twixter. Just like this little like glitchy like look right here. Maybe it is Twixter, but I'm not sure. Also the sharpen. I don't know if you added extra sharpen. Looks like you probably did. This game already has cell shading. It's very obvious that there's extra shading on this. I don't think it was super necessary to do that. Maybe like some BCC magic sharp, like just a little bit, but not as much as you currently have probably. Because when you add sharpen on stuff like this, right, just for looking for the edges, right, it's going to look like you lost quality in the softer areas, in the gradients, right? It's so blocky. You can see the blocks, even especially here. But yeah, and also you can see very easy. You can see the hair warping towards the end right there. It's like that. Yep. I'll see the warping is obviously really, really bad throughout the entire like actual clip here. It's as someone who's not played this video game before, I can barely tell what's going on. I can tell maybe you've got she kicks in a circle in the air for some reason, and then she kicks on the floor and everyone gets sent up. And that's I mean, sure, that's might be what's actually happening in the gameplay, but the gameplay is so low fidelity that I can't tell. Like, if you asked me to point out where one character starts and one character ends in here, I could not tell you the difference. Maybe I can tell you this guy is one person, or I don't know, this person's one person, but this is just a mess, right? And still here, even you can barely tell that she's different because she's just really bright colors, and the rest of it is not bright colors. I feel like I've harassed you over your quality enough.
French plug and he keeps getting like a beat. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French plug and he keeps saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop. Nigga, who is we? We kicking out like a beat. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French plug and he keeps saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop making.
Your shakes are really different. You have this one shake in the beginning, which is like it's pretty normal, pretty nice. Cool. I think it looks fine. It's a little bit bouncy, but only a tiny bit, and really it kind of fits the scene to me personally. But the shakes here I think are also fine, in that they're a little more subdued, it feels like, because obviously you're looking for game footage. There's a lot of stuff going on in the scene. You want to be able to see it more, right? There's not one main focus point. There's a lot of movement happening, a lot of stuff you want to capture. But then this one feels a little bit too the frequency is too high, I feel like. Doesn't really match the other ones personally. I'm not sure why this one would be more frequency than the other ones by that much, but and then you go back to like this is this is relatively close to the same. But you go back to about the same shit as you had in part 2, maybe a little longer, which just feels weird because like you have like it's like slow, fast, slow, right? But it feels more sudden than that.
me? Stop making who is me? Stop making
I think this one could have also used a little more shake. A little shake at all, actually. I don't think there's any shake here.
who is me? Stop making that
Also,
sound like a beat. You can sound like a beat. You can
what the hell did you do, actually? Oh, the loop is out, I think. Okay.
beat. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French pop.
Fade
A French
into cut,
pop. And he keeps
into
keep
fade
saying we.
again,
Nigga,
into shake
nigga, who
scut,
is me?
into cut. He did directional blur cut. I think, okay, as me personally, I could not like recognize what this frame actually was when I watched this, right? Or this frame even. So I think what could have been cool if you had just a zoom in.
Me stop
I don't know how well that would be received, but just a straight up zoom in into her face, into this, could have been nice. I think.
making that fucking key. You can sound
As for velocity,
you can sound like a beat. We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French pop. And he keep saying we. Nigga, who is me? Stop making that shit up.
Sound like a
Nigga, who is me? Stop making that shit up.
also these two scenes
Stop
happen.
making that
These two scenes happen too fast for me to actually understand what's going on in them. I couldn't even tell like with this right now. You know, maybe she's like kicking upside down, right? Maybe at best, but it just happens so quickly, and like it's not. This scene is so unrecognizable when going to this scene that I couldn't tell that they're related at all.
shit up.
And then this is like, what am I looking at? Like a shockwave? Like now I don't understand it's a shockwave type of effect, but before I couldn't tell the scene was even related to the scene because it was just too quick. Pacing was just way too quick on that. As for velocity, okay, maybe this isn't you in these current scenes, but I've noticed from you and other people as well that you've had this like weird, not obsession I guess, but like you've been stuck with like these certain velocity graphs, which isn't okay. I'm gonna go on a side tangent for a second, sorry, but you have like for this one for example, it's like the graphs like look fine I guess if you like look at it from like a objective editor perspective, but then when you're looking at it as a viewer, like this is like parts of this look goofy, like the way he like moves so quickly, right? Like people aren't meant to move like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I see like edits like with this or like the other funny horror game I can't remember on top of my head, where it's just like they have like ridiculous amounts of like movement in their walk cycles, like whatever, and you see their feet moving like they're like Scooby-Doo or some like anime character, and it's just really weird. Sorry about that. Anyway, like I try to think about it from like a viewer perspective and not always from an editor perspective. Like sometimes you get really easily in your own head or in like the community, and you forget that some people just don't like. From an objective perspective, on an outside viewer, you'd think this is goofy. You wouldn't think it's like. Sometimes you get stuck in your own head after you watch your own edit like 100 times. But whatever. Next thing.
Like a fucking key. A French pop. And he keep we kicking down doors like a beat. We kicking down doors.
A little.
We kicking.
The velocity's cutting it really close here. I think it's a little too. The graph is a little too sharp. I think the. I'm gonna pull up bait on that real quick. So the graph I think probably looks like I don't know, maybe like this. Nah, maybe more like probably like this, something like that. Maybe your handles are like I don't know, this and like this. It just feels a little too sharp to me. Maybe it's a little less than that, but it feels like a tiny bit too sharp.
Like a fucking you can sound like a beat. We kicking down doors like a fucking key.
And it's the same thing here too. Like you do like a little more movement toward the end, where it's like maybe you dropped an extra like this bit on it, plus like a one framer like this, but.
French pop and he French pop. French pop and he keep saying we. French pop and he keep saying we. Nigga, who is we? keep saying we. He a French plug and he keep saying we. Nigga, he keep saying.
The fade in. Okay, I like the idea of the fade in here because you have like this slow velocity, but it's not entirely slowed down, but it's coming there, right? But you have like this one frame, this frame, where I think the RSB is like having a seizure or something. When you add RSB, I think you should add RSB on the clips individually, like pre-comp the clip, add RSB in there, and then okay, like add RSB in the clip, then time wrap it, and then do whatever you want with transitions, because it just feels weird with like frames like this. Like when you're doing RSB and dissolves don't match to any extent. It's like it does make sense to me. Like you have like this slow motion and you have like this is a slow carry motion, like constant, but it kind of doesn't. RSB doesn't like that. Also, I think every single one of your clips have some pretty bad frame interpolation. I know I already pointed out, but like it's not just like a one-off. It's like every single scene possible. There's something I use called NSI Afterburner. If I really need to record like fast, oh, the clip just stopped. No, we're good. If I really needed to record like fast, I'll record with this. This can record up to 120 FPS. Assuming your game probably runs fast, which I assume this game probably does run pretty fast. It looks pretty low quality. Not low quality, but like lower polygon count. You could probably record with this and record fast, record more FPS, avoid those problematic scenes a little more. Also full frames. I don't know if you're using full frames, but it looks like a lot of twix are warping. That's very nice of you. There, okay, again, like, you have like this movement like this. I feel like a lot of your pacing is just really quick. You have like, this clip is like, it's decent, but like, you go over it in like maybe a second, or less than a second, probably. And it's the same thing, like, same thing with this scene too. Like, you have her grin, which is like, this looks like a good scene, right? To me personally. But then you kind of just like, you cut it off as soon as like it actually reaches maturity. I feel like, you have like a graph, you have like, when you think of a normal like S-curve graph, right? Bucket velocity, I don't think of it like this. You're gonna think of it like this, I don't really care. But it feels like you cut like here, or like maybe like here, and you never get to the fast part, which, okay, you don't have to do S-curves on every single scene you do. But I'm still looking for scenes to be long enough for me to appreciate every single scene you have. Sorry, there's a really loud motorcycle outside. I still want to be able to see all your scenes for like a decent amount of time. Again, it feels like you've watched the edit 100 times, and because you've watched the edit 100 times, you know exactly what to expect, and your eyes instantly flick to the thing you're interested in, or like the part of the scene you're interested in, right? So, for example, right, it's pretty easy for my eyes, right? Someone who's maybe, I mean, let's say, like, for example, someone who's new, who doesn't watch that like even once, it's pretty easy for their eyes to latch onto a bright object like this, right? And then watch it move here. That's completely fine, because it's basically staying in the center of the screen, and it's like right here, right? That's fine. Maybe this scene is okay. But in this scene, right? Or actually, this scene is probably a better idea. This scene has this, okay, this frame, and this frame, which, or maybe these two frames, where you can't really tell what's going on, and you're like, okay, well, your eyes are kind of like distorted. You don't know where to look at, so your eyes are gonna focus on your eyes are either gonna read the screen, so go like from the center spiraling out, or latch on to the nearest bright object, right? However, there is no real bright object in this scene. There is, sure, they're kind of bright, but compared to the rest of the scenes you've had in this rest of this edit, they're not particularly bright. Like, this scene was bright, this scene was bright, right? This scene was bright, but this scene, not so much. And sure, it is in the center of the screen, but it lasts for short enough and doesn't show the whole animation. Like, you just hit the last point in the animation, you hit the maturity in the animation, and then you instantly skip. Yeah, so
Stop making that. Stop making that.
I just think you need to make the pacing a little slower. I think you're. It feels like this is a 3HC, or maybe even a 2 or 1HC, where you decided to slap on a preset color correction, and then do some scales, some shakes, and a bit of velocity, and that's about it. And some sharpening. There's not really. Despite the 20 minutes entails, there's not really a lot to comment on here. I think the pacing could be a good bit faster and slower. Pacing could be a good bit slower on some of the signs. The POVs are fine. I mean, the actual clips themselves, like this clip is fine. Higher quality, less sharpening. Yeah, I think your pen crop is probably fine. You also could do with more interesting transitions. Like I said before, this feels like a 1HC, a 2HC, a 3HC, right? It feels like you kind of rushed this a little bit. Or like you just did it quickly and just want to get it out. None of the transitions are particularly interesting. You got just like basic dissolves, you got cuts, and that's about it. Especially also with this thing. I don't know what this is called. This opacity blend mode glitch thing. It also doesn't really feel like it fits at all, honestly. But yeah.
We kicking down doors like a fucking key. A French plug and he keeps saying we. Nigga, who is we? Stop making that shit up.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the easiest thing you could do is just like add typography if you really like want to increase the quality of your edit. But yeah, the things I mentioned before, do those. Yeah. Cool. That's this one. Next one. Holy shit, this is 20 minutes. And this is actually, for the record, this is going to be 15 FPS at also 720p. So I'll play it out first again, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. This is the same thing you had before, the same issue I had with it, where your graphs are like vaguely stiff, right? But these graphs are like really stiff. Like you have like this, and then it's like really sudden. Maybe this one is like what I was talking about before. Like sometimes you can't even see this bit here. Like you can't even see, like this looks like a normal like line. It's really stiff. And also, obviously, still manipulation. I assume you did this exact same recording software stuff. Manipulation is pretty bad. Like, look at how like there's quite literally only motion because you have like barely anything coming from Twixter. This cuts out pretty quickly, and which is kind of weird. The glitch is cool. Like, look at how little it moves. Even if the hair moves like a tiny bit, it's not enough. It doesn't justify anything. Like, look at how little the hair moves at all, right? I'll tell you, or you can hear the keyboard clack as I. Can you hear the keyboard clack? Yeah, you can hear the keyboard clack. So you can hear the keyboard clack as I go from frame to frame. So, I'll just be silent, and then you'll hear every time the keyboard clacks is a one frame moved over, right? See how many frames there were that were dead? The frames, I just mean like that you didn't actually have any movement in them. Like that's a lot. And even before the glitches, you had a lot of that as well. The glitches like, kind of hide the fact that you have more of them. Or like, you want to replay the last like 2 seconds of it, like 1 frame of it. And I get into some pretty bad warping here. I would recommend, honestly, this looks like just frame blending. If it is Twixter, I would really recommend you read this tutorial. One sec. I want to put up. I just want to make sure I don't accidentally show something stupid. This tutorial, it's about like a 2 or 3 hour read probably. But the one part you really need of it is, first things first is you need to make sure your in FPS is the same as your out FPS. And your in FPS, make sure your in FPS is your actual clips FPS for Twixtor. But also, 1 second here. So this warping stuff. So this area is really what you want to look at. 4.3. This bit here, right? Look how much like it uses extra stuff and guides to make it look less shit, right? This one's no editing. This one's editing on Twixtor. You can spend a lot of time on Twixtor to make it look a lot better. I wouldn't spend a lot much time. I wouldn't spend like more than like an hour per shot, but I would spend at least that much if you really want to make the Twixtor look good. Guidance masks. You see, like he keyframed and added masks on the jet contrails and the plane itself, and added it into Twixtor to make it a little less wonky. Same with this here, right? There you normally be a ton of warping, right, on these hands or on like the way they move, but he added a ton of like masks. So really, masking is a huge way to go if you actually want to make it look a little better. You can also use motion guide masks, which are a little less, they're a little more loose. They don't have to be as form-fitted to the characters like the other masks do, but they can still provide a good result. Yeah, you can see, right? Yeah, he added a mask to every single one of these little leaves, the Cure Blossom leaves or whatever. But yeah, that's that. But again, like I was saying before, like this is to me, it feels like a generic pop song. So it doesn't feel like this is a generic pop song in that like it's not really, there's not a lot here to talk about, right? There's no real theme about it. The song is just like hyper pop rap, not hyper pop, like auto-tune rap, which is fine. Again, there's just no theming. There's no interesting like point that you can like conceptualize or like visualize. You just made it black and white in the hope that it looks okay. Also, again, the black and white, you're losing a lot of quality here. You can see here the legs, in the way that this like bar, there's a lot more shading here that you kind of you're throwing away this extra shading by just adding the tint effect or whatever effect you actually use to grayscale it. Using a LUT to grayscale it instead would have been much better. You could have preserved a lot more quality. You can see her face, her legs, everything is one color, but in this is not. I think this could have used shading, or this could have used a little more. This bit right here, this white like framer type thing, you could have used something a little so that it actually moved in the scene to make it last a little longer, I think. As it is, it just felt a little bit out of place. Also, the fact that you only used glitches like in this one scene, it makes it very obvious that you tried to prolong the scene with those glitches than anything else. Because you didn't really use glitches anywhere else. Quite honestly, it's a lot of the same problems. I think this is a little better, honestly, but. if you're going to do diagonal movement like this, where it's like you're kind of trying to zoom in almost, I feel like a little bit, zooming into this, you could have, I feel like, add some direction, some radial blur. Don't just leave all the blur up to RSMB, because RSMB will do a shit job. You should also add your own. So when there's movement back and forth, like forward and backwards, you should add some CC radial blur, so just centered zoom. You add some up, down, or left, right movements. Add some directional blur, right? Can't just leave all as RSMB. It's gonna be the exact same as Fixer, right? Where it's like all over the place. Also, did you? I don't think there is any actual RSMB. Okay, even if you don't want RSMB at all, that's fine. But you should add some sort of blurs, right? The CC radial blur, directional blur, on your own manually. I don't think this shake really fixed this that much. This is like the same problem you had as a prior one. You really have like not similar, not like very similar, but you have a pretty similar like constant, like this shake is like okay, but it's a little bouncy, and you have this one shake which is like really sharp, which again feels like it clashes with that other previous shake. You don't have a third shake because you don't have a third scene that actually needs that shake. But this could have used some extra warping and stuff like that, like some sort of warp, like pinch punch type warp. It's very clear that the focus point's right here, and you could have emphasized that more. Oh, my bad. Whatever. Okay, wow, that was 31 minutes. So, yeah, I'm gonna go back to that prior thing, right? That prior review I gave like ages ago. This thing, it feels like very similar to what I said to vulajin, where basically you have very repetitive in the way you do your effects work, and that you don't really do effect work except for your shakes and your maybe some glitches and your CC. Like you're stuck to less fingers effects than I have fingers because of the style. The style is super like, it's, to me, it's personally super boring. It's just generic. It's like anyone could do that, right? I could do that in my sleep. But what sets you apart is the unique effects you have. What sets you apart is the unique story you have, or the unique execution you have. And you don't have any of those things, because you can't have a unique execution when your style is so confined to like 4 or 5 effects and your VFX sort of disposal. You're like, it feels like you're stuck at mediocre or decent because you won't come out of your shell and you won't try new things. Sure, maybe you did try the new thing in the concept of adding that this rainbow glow signal warp thing, right? But that's like 2 frames at most. That's nothing. Yeah, it just feels like you're handicapping yourself. And that's, again, like, it's a weird thing. To me, it feels weird that you're almost like, your aim is to make something that looks like client work, because it's boring. It's just boring. The focus when you do something like client work, you're focusing on the clips, right? But the clips aren't interesting. The clips are just random points of anime girls cutting people, or just random close-up shots of them, and that's just not terribly interesting when you don't know the context behind it. Like, that's why AMVs always have, like, they're either like fighting a lot, or they're like, you can tell there's a story there, but you can't tell there's a story there with your edits. Like, you can maybe tell this is a duel because, of course, there's only 2 characters in the entire damn scene, but also one of them is never shown anything more than a medium range, and even then she's only shown like over backward like this. Like, Oh, let's grab that. Yeah. I spent too long on this. Anyway, I have to go, but I hope you get some thoughts to my words, especially the fact that like it just feels repetitive, feels boring. Like if you want to go for anime or you want to go for like even just editing your own games, that's fine. But I think your first step is to make it a little longer. It's okay to be imperfect or to use the same repetitive style over like 30 or 45 seconds, because then you can understand this is repetitive because I'm literally watching the same thing, the same effects for 45 seconds. And I don't know. I think making it longer, making your edits longer consistently, more than 10 seconds, is a good first starting point. Yeah, because then if you do it over 10 seconds, you're going to inevitably figure out you're going to be accidentally using the same effects for ages, and you feel forced to add new effects, different effects, and do more variety in your style. Just my thoughts though. Yeah, okay, well, I hope you're doing well, and I'm gonna just go now. Hope this helped.